Hi, this is James from Tabletop Gaming Guild, and today we're going to take a look at Cult of the Deep, a 4 to 8 player game by BA Games. So let's go ahead down to the table. We're going to do a general preview of the game because, again, this is a game that's going to Kickstarter and this is a prototype. I'm going to give you a general overview of the game and how it plays, and we'll come back and I'll give you my final thoughts. Okay, so we're going to do the initial setup of Cult of the Deep, and to keep in mind this is a prototype, so some of the components are not finalized. Some of the stuff is going to be subject to change, so anything that you see in here could change. Like these dice here are all prototype dice, the art might be different, and so on. So there's an optional variant in the game that I just want to point out real quick called the necromancer. We might go over that at the end here, but for right now we're going to remove the necromancer card. And what you're going to do is you're going to shuffle and hand out these character cards. Now these character cards are going to give you your starting health and a unique ability that each player is going to get. So once you've done that and you place that out, the next thing you're going to do is you're going to deal out one of these sigil cards to each player. And they're going to be hidden, they're going to be dealt face down, and they're going to give you a different ability during the game that you could use one time. So you're going to get that. And then you're going to get 4 dice. And the most important thing, the next thing, you're going to get your roll card, which can be a Kabbalist, a vengeful heretic, a repentant heretic, or a faithful. There's also, where'd the priest go? There's also the high priest. So in the game, you're going to take, for the number of players you have, and you're going to have that combination of cards. And in every single one, you're going to have the high priest. Once you deal these out, they're going to be dealt face down, and the only one that gets revealed initially is going to be the high priest. They actually go first. So that'll be dealt face down. And then you also give out one of these handy-dandy reference sheets too. So that would be basically what your player setup is going to look at the start of the game. You're going to reveal if you're the high priest or not during the game. And the high priest will then go first. So, you'll also take a number of these equal to your health. So they're going to show your health. Because you can die in this game. And one of the things I didn't mention yet, and we're going to go over in a little bit, is the wraith deck, and you'll be using that if you actually die. Which, high likelihood you might. So, basically what we're going to do is we're going to go over each of the rolls here, and I'm going to tell you what their win condition is. So, if you're the high priest on here, you'll notice it also says on the card itself, you're going to win if all the Kabbalists and heretics die while you remain alive. So that is the goal of the high priestess. Now you also have you're going to have Kabbalists here. If you're a Kabbalist, you win if the high priest dies and at least one Kabbalist is alive. You also have grave vengeance with the Kabbalist. If every Kabbalist, including you, is dead, you win only. You only win if the heretic is the last cultist alive or everyone is dead. So there's also an additional win condition on this guy, depending. The other ones, they're going to be, you can be the faithful. The faithful win if the high priest is alive and all Kabbalists and heretics die. That's how that one goes. You also can have the repentant hero. So the repentant hero wins if you're the last cultist alive or everyone else dies. Also, you have a deathbed confession. While dead, you win if the high priest is alive and all the Kabbalists die. You also have the vengeful heretic that you could potentially be. And the vengeful heretic, right here, wins if you're the last cultist alive or everyone dies. You also have wrathful retribution. While dead, you win if the high priestess dies and at least one Kabbalist is still alive. So you also have that additional objective on there. So those are all handed out and those are all secret. And one of the biggest things in the game is you're going to try to figure out what role the other players have in the game. Iron High Priestess, because, you know, that one's revealed, so it's obvious. So there's going to be 4 phases on each of the player's turns. The first one is you're going to roll these dice, and you actually roll these dice Yahtzee style. So you can select a couple of them and re-roll. So if I wanted to keep those, I could have done it one more time on there. Whoops, I don't remember what that was. I think it was 1 damage. And then after you roll, you can commit the dice to, which we'll go over in a second. And your opponents can respond to you committing those dice to the different locations, players, or whatnot. And then you resolve the dice. So after your turn, it just goes to the player to the left. It goes on until the game ends. So we went over the roll phase, which is just going to be simply Yahtzee style rolling. And we can go over the different die faces in a second here too. But we'll do that after I could talk about the commit phase. So in the commit phase, what you're going to do is you're going to take these die results and you're either going to commit them to yourselves or an opponent. And each cultist has a power symbol associated with the character there. You and only you can commit dice showing your power symbol to your own cultist. So I can't commit any dice to this character with that power symbol at all, just myself. Each of these ritual sites also has a symbol they indicate that needs to be applied there to move the ritual along. So I could commit that there. The other thing I can do is, you notice that there's the single sword and the double sword. These are damage also. So I could commit these to another player to damage their character and potentially killing them if I wanted to, or if I knew what they were and I needed them to be dead, I could do that. Okay, during the response phase, which is the next phase in this, the opponents or each other player can use their special abilities to respond to my committed dice. So that can change the rolls on the dice, or the special abilities or abilities they gain. So you can actually gain when you commit, if you're the one that completes these different rituals, you actually gain the card and you can gain more abilities. So you can use your abilities to change these dice, or where they're committed, or the roll, or the number on it. Once that's all completed and everyone else that wished to respond has responded and that's done, then we go to the resolve phase. So in the resolve phase, there's a couple different things that'll happen. So one thing that can happen is, like I said here, if you have the swords and you put it on a cultist, if it's 1, they get 1 damage. If it's 2, they get 2 damage. You can also do the blood droplet on them, and the blood droplet gains, so I can help a cultist or myself gain a life back. You can use the different power symbols on there, so either on the character itself, if it matches, or one of the rituals. We'll go over that in a second, resolving rituals. So the power symbol on each of the cultists has a specific symbol, like I said, like mine has the scroll on there. And I can only the one that can commit it. So when if I commit any to myself, I would gain 1 life. So when you resolve a rituals, which is the other one, so let's say I put the scroll up here to resolve the rituals, and I have 2 of them that I'm resolving on there. All right, one thing for doing these rituals on here, basically these are going to be at different locations on here. I didn't set it up right for that, but we're just going to move these over. Yeah, pay attention to the cards and what they do on there, but basically when you're going to be doing this, you're going to be placing this on here, and you're going to trying to move these markers all the way to 0. Once you move them all the way to 0, you're going to gain the complete the ritual, and you're going to gain it as a keeper. So you're going to get this card here, and if it has a keeper ability on it, you're going to be able to have that for the rest of the game, as long as you're alive. So, and if you die on there, if you kill a person with one of these, you will actually gain their ritual benefit for the keeper. So that's basically what you're going to be doing with getting those die committed to the different rituals on there. The rituals will all have different amounts of where these markers are at that you're going to try to move over, and they're all going to have different symbols. Well, some of them same, but they're all going to have different things to read the text on them to figure out how to complete each if you're going to try to do that. They also have different components that are available on there. You have the Kraken die. So with the Kraken die, before you roll, basically your roll phase, before you roll these dice on here to figure out what we're going to commit them to, you're going to roll this. You lose life equal to the total rolled, so you can lose up to 4 life. However, you can re-roll this as often here, but every time you re-roll it, you're going to have 1 less of your dice to roll during that phase. So there's a little bit of compromise on that one. There's also going to be 2 other types of tokens. You're going to have these siren tokens, and when you're alive, you can respond using the siren tokens. You can recommit one of the dice to a cultist or ritual of your choice, max 1 coin per turn. You also have these chant coins here, which are really nice. You can have these chant coins. During your commit phase, you may spend any number of these chant coins to change the face of that many dice before you commit them. So if I spend 4, which would be the max for the most part, there's something else that can happen, but you could spend 4 of these and change all of them. The one thing you can't do is you can't change it to the double damage one. That's the only rule for that one. And your sigils, once per game, you can fire off their special abilities. The one thing that's cool about this game is death doesn't kill you. So death is not the end for the cultist. If you die, you are not out of the game. Instead, you will pull one of these wraith cards up, and you're going to gain the stuff on the bottom at your death. So, and there's going to be different dice because they're going to be these blue dice instead of the red dice. So on this wraith here, so I'm going to gain 3 dice, and these symbols on here are going to only last until I roll them on my turn. So once you become the wraith, you're also going to lose a couple things. You're going to lose your any rituals that you became the keeper of. Now, if you died by your own hand, those get discarded instead. You will also lose your character's special ability on there, and be basically just playing as a wraith with those 3 dice. So when you play as a wraith, your card's going to apply you with a new ability, which is your new ability to use. And you can use it during each other cultist response phase, as long as you have unused dice remaining. So you got 3 dice. As long as you have some unused dice remaining, you can use it during the response phase. The other cultists. How you take your turn is going to really change, though. Your roll phase proceeds as usual, so what's on your turn you're going to roll, except you use the wraith dice instead of the cultist dice. So you use those blue dice instead of the red dice on there. In your commit phase, you cannot commit these dice. However, they are not discarded at the end of the phase. During each other cultist response phase, that's when you're actually going to be using those dice that you have on there. So you're going to have a lot more interaction with the other players, and it's super important during the game that you determine, at least try to determine, what roles the other players are, so you could still potentially win the game. Now, the game immediately ends if all the cultists and the heretic are dead. The high priest and faithful will win together. The high priest is dead, the game will immediately end. If the heretic is the only living cultist remaining, the game ends, they win. If everyone dies, the heretic wins. Otherwise, the Kabbalists win. So that's going to be the end game. Now, I did mention that there's also the necromancer card, so if you want to have an additional twist on the game, you can use this necromancer card during the game. And basically, there's a couple different things it does, but you can decide whether you want the high priest to have it, or you can randomly give it out. Well, actually, the high priest would reveal and then give it out is one of the options. If you die, you gain the necromancer abilities, and you can technically revive your character. Now, there's the rules for winning the game do change a little bit with this one. This would be an advanced option that you can use during the game, so I would suggest playing the game a couple times before you actually decide that you want to bring in the necromancer. Okay, real quick, just to go over the ritual tracks on here. Basically what you're going to do is you're going to place these ritual tracks. So if we played 8 players, you actually place them equal to the number of players. So I know I didn't mention that, just went over it real quick, but that's basically what you're going to do. So if 8 players are all going to be over there, and then you got to move them down before you claim them. So I just want to throw that out there real quick before we finished up. So again, this is a prototype game, so some of the rules and components are subject to change. This is just a brief overview of the game also, just to give you an idea how it plays and what the mechanics are. So let's go back up to the table here, and I'll give you my thoughts on the game, Cult of the Deep. Okay, so yeah, Cult of the Deep is a really fun hidden role game. There is a lot of meat in the game and a lot of decisions you need to make throughout the game of completely different rituals to get the benefits from them, trying to deduce how the other players are acting to determine what role they are, and using that to determine what you need to do to win the game. It's also really cool that when you die in the game, that you can still interact and play in the game as a wraith. So I really like that, the fact that there's not like really player elimination on there. You can still make a impact in the game, and even if you die, you could still technically win depending on your role. So that's really good for this game. The other really cool thing is going to be the necromancer variant. Adds a nice twist to it. It's good advanced rules, and it's really nice that it's included in the game. So again, this was a prototype, so art and components and even the rules can be subject to change on the Kickstarter, but this is definitely one that I'm going to check out on their Kickstarter. I'm very excited about it. This is actually one of the few prototypes that I'm going to be sad to pass on to another reviewer. It is really fun game, and I really look forward to actually getting a final version of this game. So that is going to be Cult of the Deep. Really, again, I highly recommend checking out their Kickstarter. It's a really fun game. I was very surprised with how much fun it was, and thank you for watching.